And that to me is the draw. It's the beauty of it, but also I think it's the thing that scares people because it's there's no faking it.
You are listening to the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, brought to you by Salty Electrolytes. On this podcast, your host, Riley Rogers, explores the stories of people who get after it, get things done, and earn their salt. You will hear from high achievers who discuss what makes them tick, how they got to where they are today, and where they're headed tomorrow. Perhaps this podcast will help you go earn your salt. Today we have Danny Ocana. Danny I met up at a jiu-jitsu camp in Park City. He is a fellow Pedro Sauer affiliate, jiu-jitsu brother, and we're both brown belts, so it's a great time. Maybe between now and then you've gotten your black belt. I don't know how that's going, but
To
we'll
the
talk
brown
about
belt.
that. Um, so Danny, I'm super excited to have you on here. Uh, Danny is the co-host of the Lost Boy Scouts podcast, and we're gonna talk about that on this episode. I really
Sure.
want to pick his brain about where that came from, what it looks like, what it's morphed into, some of the challenges, some of the you're gonna hear a lot here. There's a lot of subject matter to talk about, and
First
we're
of
gonna
all,
go from
man,
there. So Danny, welcome to the show, brother.
great job on close to my pronunciation. So in my last name, it actually the N is an Enye, right? So
Oh,
my last name is actually Ocana, but you got it so close, and I'm super stoked because sometimes people just take my last name and take poetic license on how they want to say it, But
man,
yours was
yeah,
close. It was really awesome.
it didn't have I didn't remember seeing any
Enye.
punctuation on there. So
Mhm.
I just rednecked it. That's what happened there.
My wife, sometimes, man, people like butcher our names. So when my boys were wrestling, she would make them go down and tell the announcer, "Hey, make sure he says your name correctly," and that so they would get it correctly, But no,
Did it
actually,
work?
most of the time it did because as long as they put the Enye over there, you just have to remind them to say it Okanya, you know. Um, I get teased a lot because I don't like. A lot of times I'm like, whatever, man, you got it close, Even
You just take
Professor,
it.
Professor still sometimes like he'll say my name and I'll be like, hey, is he gonna say something if I don't correct him? He's like, I know, I've known you for 10 years and I still can't get it right. And I was like, no, it's all right, it's okay. But no, you did a great job. It was really close, and I appreciate that.
No, it was close, but it wasn't there. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
it's funny because my name is spelled Riley. And
right.
every once in a while, most people get it, but every once in a while somebody will call me really.
Oh,
And it cracks me
really?
up every time it happens.
Yeah, really?
It's like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
really? Really? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was yeah, especially like as you go on and you meet more people and like my boys, they wrestled a lot, they compete a lot, and um we always are like have to remind them, hey, make sure you tell them how to say your last name. My older boy, he puts the Enye on everything. Um
Oh, okay.
Even on his military uniform, he has the Enye on there and he puts it on everything. And that's always cool because at least then people get it you know, most of the time.
Yeah, well, I'm glad
So,
you're telling me what that's even called because that's a little squiggly above the N, right?
yep. Yeah. So in
Okay.
the Spanish language, it actually is its own letter. So it goes
Oh, really?
Nye. Yeah. It's its own letter. And which is
Cool.
actually kind of cool. I personally don't speak a lot of Spanish. I try my hardest. But my grandparents and my parents, they speak Spanish, but um because we grew up in Utah, it was kind of frowned upon in their generation to speak Spanish. They didn't want to be like singled out, they didn't want to be like, they didn't want that stigmatism that happened back then. But now it's not a stigmatism, and I wish I knew how to speak more Spanish. And me and my wife, we practice. We have friends that they only speak Spanish, and you should see us having our conversations. It's kind of fun.
That's awesome, man. Well, talk about that. Talk about some more growing up. Who's Danny?
Yeah, so man, I I have a funny story because the first part of my life is this journey of, you know, my dad was in the military. He We traveled a lot. we moved around a lot when I was younger. And then my parents got divorced when I was pretty young, and we spent a lot of time in Arizona. That's where the majority of my younger childhood grew up. And it was a rough time in Arizona. Where I grew up, there was a lot of gangs, a lot of trouble. I got into a lot of trouble. My first part of my childhood was pretty rough with me not having a father figure. My dad is great. I love my dad. He blessed me with with a very strong last name, very strong work ethic. It's just we don't have a good relationship. He left pretty early when I was younger. When I was, I was wild. I was wild when I was younger. Grew up with a lot of boys in my family. Um, and in Arizona, when my mom decided to leave, the gangs had moved from California into Arizona, and it was a really rough time, Riley. So much that some of those things that I remember, kids bringing guns on the bus, fighting every day, fighting like gladiator style. Somebody would fight, and it was like who my childhood was. And then my mom was like, "We gotta, we can't have this. I can't have you guys around this anymore." So we moved to Utah, which was where she was from, and we had no idea what Utah was. By chance, one of the neighbors across the street were Mormon, so
Mm-hmm.
we knew that there was a lot of Mormons in Utah. We had no idea, when we moved here, we were like, "What in the world?" It was culture shock, for sure,
Sure.
culture shock. And I still carried some of those negative behaviors to Utah for a little while until I realized I didn't need to do that anymore. I didn't have to pretend to be this tough kid that fought all the time, that like, was always down to whatever I needed to do to get down. And when we moved to Utah, my entire life, man, the branch blossomed so much. Thank God for my mom. We tell my mom all the time, thank goodness that she moved us to Utah because it changed the entire trajectory of our lives. Not to tell too much, but my brother and I are two of the boys on my mom's side of the family that have no prison time and no scary times like that. Some of my cousins, they had some pretty rough times. They just couldn't get away from it. They just couldn't get away from that negative impact, or that the negative that was in their lives. You know, and Utah, I it was great. Utah has been so good to me. Not that I didn't have struggles or anything, but I was around my dad's side of the family in Utah, and they were all military men, very strong ethics, very strong moral character. So my cousins on that side, on my dad's side, all of the boys, the Ocana boys, we've all served in the military. Every one of us, we all have super strong military background, which gives us super strong morals, and ethics and codes, right?
Sure.
And I had a kid young. My wife and I, we we had a kid out of high school, and I knew I needed to change my dad's. What happened with me. I needed to be there for my kids, right? I needed to be there for my kids. So I left for the military at 18, almost 19 years old. And again, just what a blessing. You don't know at that point, right? Like you don't know, like
Sure.
19 years old, crowd. I was wild still. I was wild, but man, like um what the military did for me, it set me up for this trajectory of success that is like, man, I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky that my mom moved us, and then I was around my dad, went to the military, or sorry, my dad's family went to the military, and then I became an air traffic controller in the military. And to this day, that's what I do. Like I tell people all the time, I don't know any different. I was 18 years old. I'm 40. I turned 47 on Saturday, and my entire life has been air traffic control. So,
Man. I have a question for you. You're talking about when you moved to Utah, how you blossomed and you were able to kind of escape that gravitational pull of the kind of the
yeah.
gang life. And do you think it was a geographical thing, or do you think it was something about you that was kind of built in there? Where the reason I'm asking this is because growing up, the people I was around, it was a lot the same way. There was a bunch of them that started going down these paths of just being thieves and, just really criminals. And then,
Yeah.
but there was a couple of us who were just like, man, this doesn't make sense to us. I think we
I,
should just not be friends with those guys. And then I watched my older brothers and sisters, and I watched some life altering mistakes they would make. And I'm like, it came from the same background, but I'm like, I'm just going to avoid a few of these things because that one looks like it hurt. That one's going to leave a mark, dude. And do you think in your life, what did that look like? Was it something inside of you that kind of spoke that way, or do you think it was just strictly geographic?
I believe 100% Riley that it's a genetic code. I believe that your genetic code kind of directs you to do really good at whatever you decide. It may be a criminal, like you may be a really good criminal because your genetic code gives you that drive, right? You know, but for me, yeah, I believe that. I believe my genetic code, my grandparents, my those people like that gave me my genetic genes, right? I think it was instilled in me that I didn't want to do that. It was so, when I first came to Utah, of course, like I said, I brought some of that negative energy with me and hung out with some guys that I probably shouldn't have. And once, same thing, once my group of friends, like we are all very successful men, but we were young teenagers and we did stupid stuff. But I believe that it was in my genetic code that I was going to be successful. Now again, whatever I decided I was going to be successful at, right? And just by the
Yeah.
grace of God, um, I had this path and it's driven me to be successful. I also think that I got very lucky. Um, I got into the military and just happened to have this killer job that propelled me to where I'm at today. I honestly believe that my personal beliefs are that like you meet people in your life and you gravitate to them and then they bring you along with their beliefs, with their trajectory. And I believe that's happened to me in my life is that I've just got lucky. I have this like, man, I've met this person. We gravitated together to be successful. Maybe we don't talk anymore, but I can always go back to that person and be like, man, thank goodness for you because you saved me a lot of time, you know? And so,
Kind of mentor
uh,
relationships you're talking about, right?
for sure. Yeah, 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 for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. I it, it, it's funny because like I don't know any different than Utah, right? Um, but some of my friends that grow up like you said you were in Idaho. We used to go to Idaho to Pocatello, and
Where I grew up.
that's we would spend our weekends in Pocatello. Like we would just drive up there for the weekend. And I was always like, why are we going up here? But it was like, I don't know, we'll just go to Idaho. We had some friends up there, and we'd spend the weekend in Pocatello. When I was in high school. So
So Pocatello's my hometown, man. That's where I grew up.
I love
What were your friends'
Pocatello.
names? I'm curious because we're really close to the same age. We're only a year apart.
These guys are all from Utah. W- They
Okay.
had friends in Pocatello, and I don't remember their names. We just would go up there and hang out. And there was like this little weird. Um, you would drive down. Is it Main Street that people would drive up and down? Like it's almost like cruising the State Street. Like
Yellowstone. It was Yellowstone if
Yellowstone.
you were.
Yeah, Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would drive up and down Yellowstone for the weekend, and then go get beers or whatever, whatever teenagers do.
That's so funny, man. Because yeah, we spent a lot of time out on that cruise loop, and it was only
Yeah,
like
right.
3-4 miles of cruise, but we thought it was the
Yeah,
coolest.
it was cool. I didn't realize you grew up in Pocatello. Uh,
Yeah,
Pocatello's a
yeah.
great
That's
little town.
technically Chubbuck was where I actually grew up, but they're the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We when the boys were wrestling, we spent a lot of time in Pocatello
Mm.
for they had that big Western Regionals tournament that happened there, and so we spent a lot of time in Pocatello because it'd be like 7 days straight of hanging out in Pocatello and wrestling and all that
Dude.
stuff.
Yeah, I don't think that
Yeah,
event was probably going on when I was a kid. I wrestled, but I was young. It was elementary years. It was second to sixth grade, and you know, we yeah, that's actually what eventually got me into jujitsu was that missing that grappling, man. I loved
sure.
it. But yeah, didn't continue on through junior high and high school, so I wanted it
You
back as an adult.
did you so you didn't wrestle in junior high and high school? No.
Big
I didn't
regret in that
wrestle at
world,
all.
man. Really?
Not one single time. Not one match, not one anything. I never wrestled. I yeah, again, like what a crazy thing that like I, I never did it. I never did it, but I got lucky. I got hooked up when my older son came home from as a seventh grader. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna wrestle," and I was like, "Cool. I think that's awesome. I think that my driver's ed teacher and my teachers. I was a teacher assistant in high school. He was the wrestling coach, and he every day, you need to come wrestle. You need to come wrestle. No, I like to fight. No, this is perfect. This is perfect. It's perfect for you. You
Yeah.
could fight on the mat. And I was like, no. Of course, it was the singlet. You know, I was like a wuss. I was such a wuss. It was the singlet. I tell people all the time, it was a singlet. I didn't want to wear it. Um, and subsequently, you know, my older boy wrestled at the same high school that I went to. You know, my it's kind of funny, like going back. My wife and I's parents, so my parents, or my mom and my wife's parents went to high school together. And then my wife and I went to high school together, and then our older son graduated from that high school. So we were like deep in those roots, right?
Man,
And the that teacher was still there when my older boy went through, and he's like, "I told you one day I was gonna get one of you guys on the mat." And
I
my
love
older
it.
boy ended up being a really, you know, phenomenal wrestler at Leighton. But yeah, I never wrestled, and I always tell people like I just got lucky. I got lucky, man. I met the right people. They introduced me to wrestling and what wrestling can do for you, you know. And man, like again, just so blessed, like blessed. My you know, I've coached all the way up until the world team level, and I've wrestled as an adult. You know, I wrestled in nationals as an adult, but then it again, like you said, it drove me to jujitsu. And look at me now. Cauliflower
Dang.
ears, jacked up, you know, jacked up face, and everybody always like, look at your ears. How did you not wrestle? And I was like, I got bad ears, man. They're not tough.
There's other ways to get these ears, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny because I've never gotten it, man. I've never gotten
Not
even a
crazy.
little bit of cauliflower ear, and I've had them where they're purple and they got
Yeah,
folded and creased, and they're all blood showing through, but it's never swelled up and turned to cauliflower. So it
yeah.
must be
Mine are
genetic, man. That's
both
yeah,
bad. Neither of my boys have cauliflower ear, but mine are like blown out. I'm lucky though because I can still fit AirPods in there. You know, it's just on the
yeah. A lot of
top.
guys can't, right? A lot of guys
Yeah,
can't. But
yeah.
well, man. So tell me, how did you go? So I'm curious. So you went from military, you started air traffic control there, and that turned into your career. Is that a pretty well established career path, or was that just something you were interested in that kind of took you down that?
My uncle was a controller, so I had gone to a tower, an FAA tower. So just so you know, like most of the people think that the air traffic controllers are the guys that with the
Yeah,
cones. You know, we're not. We're the guys in the big tower. And then there's other avenues to be air traffic control.
I've
I
seen the
remember
movie
going there.
Airplane. I know those guys.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Roger, Roger, right?
Roger,
Get your
Roger. Yeah,
vector,
yeah,
Victor. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Um,
yeah,
when so when I was coming up, yeah, the military was your path into the government, which is, you know, I worked for the government. Um, Now I don't know how they get in now. It's such a changed world for me. It's a changed world. It's similar in the fact that like we do the same job. It's just how people get in. I don't know. My older son is trying to become an air traffic controller. He's in the army right now. He's got to finish up another year, but he's trying to come into, and I'm always like, man, I don't know. How I got in was so, what I was, you know, I just happened to email the right person. You know, I emailed this lady,
yeah.
and she helped three of us get in. Um, but once from the military transitioning to air to the government was kind of seamless for me. I never had a break. I went military right to the air traffic control in the government, and um, I I've never had a break in any of those in any of that. I I have had some what they call certifications. The only certification I don't have is in the tower, and that's the people with the windows, you know. I've never been in the tower. I've never had any kind of want to go in the tower. I'm in the radar portion of it. So if
Okay.
you imagine
Are you
60 miles, we control to the airport.
do you is it because you're close to Salt Lake International, right? Is it
I
that one
work
or
at
is
the
it no?
international airport.
Okay.
Yeah. So the big tower at
Tell
the
me about this,
international
man.
airport.
I'm really interested in what that looks like because I just view it like you're just spinning 1,000 plates at once, man, and like it's chaos all the
Yeah.
time, and you guys are
Yeah.
just good at managing that sort of thing. I would be terrible at that job.
Right.
I can handle a few things going on, but I kind of have to be able to button one thing up completely before I move on to the next, and to have 15 things going on would drive me crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
I'm not sure driving me crazy is the right word. I think I just don't know if I'd be able to do it. And so
Sure.
talk about that. I want to hear what day to day looks like.
It is a lot of managing. It is controlled chaos for sure. The thing is like in everybody's job, like you have these things that happen consistently every day, right? And so you go into work and you know that this is probably what's going to happen. And then there's going to be that one-off thing, and you're going to be like, oh man, now I need to earn my paycheck, right? I really better earn my paycheck. And I better have some solid, concrete, foundational habits that I do to ensure safety of the flying public. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And
Give me an example of the one offs you're talking about.
a one-off would be like if a plane, let's say a plane, we're talking to a plane, I'm talking to a plane, and his radio stops working, and now
Mm,
I can't commute. I can't communicate to him, right? If that happens, I better figure out quickly that two things. I better make sure that he's not around somewhere that he could hurt or get hurt, right? And trying to figure that part out, that's like on a small scale. If you lose a passenger airplane, man, like imagine that. Like, I can't talk to you. You have people on the board, Um,
yeah.
for the most part, honestly, Riley, like, it's very mundane sometimes. Like, it's super simple. I go in there, I work, come home. I never think about work. When I leave work, I don't bring work home. I never think about it. I'm lucky that way, I've never had that mindset. There's been times when like my wife is like, "Oh man, he must be stressed." But it's probably I'm just dealing with some crap at work that I can't process or
Yeah.
compartmentalize. Um, Man, like I've had some really awesome experiences in air traffic. I've had some scary experiences, I've had a plane call me right as soon as he took off, and he's like, "Hey, I have an engine on fire and I need to turn immediately." At that moment, it's like you go into what we consider um it's an emergency at that point, right? And then I
Sure.
need to focus all my energy on that and all do everything correctly, because then what happens is I have people scrutinize what I do,
Sure.
right? So I better do it right. I better have those concrete foundational things. And when you're young, man, you're kind of gung ho about like being in there all the time, working the busiest traffic. Oh man, I'm this like, you have this idea of who you are. As you get older, you're like, it's just another job, like it's cool. Like most people don't if I brought you into where I worked, it would seem like what you said, it'd seem like, look at all this controlled chaos. But we have rules, regulations that we stick to. As long as you stick to those rules, for the most part, you'll be safe and you'll keep people safe. That's the other thing is like I always tell people like I'm representing myself and the agency, but also like there's people that are paying for that. Those people are paying for that. And at Salt Lake, we have like the best on time departures and arrival times. We have this great like repertoire, and again, it's like it's just my job. Do you know what I mean? I don't even. A lot of times people have no idea that I was an air traffic controller because I don't talk about it a lot. I don't like, it's not like how I define myself. It's
Sure.
just, it's been a great career path for me. And honestly, like I only have about a year left. and then I can retire.
Really?
And you don't even think about that until you're my age and you're like, dude, this is insane. I'm 47 years old and I'll have a pension for the rest of my life and be living pretty comfortably for the rest of my life, and make good decisions, and gosh, lucky. So lucky. God always has been and he always has been like so kind to me. And I'm just lucky, man. Like learn good lessons and surround myself with great people, great men, and just blessed.
Oh, it's pretty awesome, man. Listen, talk to me about you're a pretty fit dude, and I've listened to some of the
Thank you.
podcast episodes you've done, and I've grappled with you, and I know you're kind of an Energizer bunny,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that was a hey, by the way, one of the funnest rounds I've
for
ever
sure.
had. That
I
was a
was
great
telling people
time.
like how fun, like how you never know, like with other brown belts, like with kind of energy, sometimes you're like, oh man, this dude is about to
It's
kind of
gonna try to
control
kill
him.
me.
My professor always tells me my number one job is to stay healthy, stay on the mats,
Hmm.
stay healthy, stay on the mat. And when you and I were training, I was just like, oh man, I was like, I could train with this guy all the time. You
Yeah,
had
that was super fun.
you were able to use what your abilities, which was to smash me a little bit sometimes, and I was like, man, this I need to figure out a way to get out of the run and beat this guy.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to not be too smashy, right? Because that we have a pretty big size difference.
For sure.
And you're a scrappy dude, and I was like, I'm gonna put some pressure here, but I'm not gonna just sit and smash because that's not fun.
Mm-mm.
That's not fun
And
for
same with
either
me,
of
like I
us.
don't want to be like running around you, and I want to keep it like, which I think is after you learn things, like we could have this like fun role once we get the honeymoon stage out of the way, and
Sure.
realize, oh yeah, we're good. We're not gonna try to kill each other.
Yeah, no, I felt like that happened fairly fast in that round. It was because we went like 10 minutes if I remember right.
Yep.
It was kind
Yep.
of we started grappling middle of one round, kind of went through the next
For
cycle, and
sure.
but it was I grappled with a couple other guys where it was a little bit more feeling out. But when you and I started grappling, man, it was just a fun time right off the bat. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Danny's not gonna punch me in the face. We're gonna be good. I didn't feel like I was gonna eat a knee. It was
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah, for sure. And
was a
like
good
you and
time.
I, it's not like I mean, we're like at that middle part of our lives, so it's not like I want to get cracked in the jaw and you're like, yeah, man, come on. Like, don't grab my feet right away. Like, let's learn each other's name before you grab my feet, and
Yeah, no
try
kidding.
to rip it off, you know.
No, I there was a couple of guys there that I was watching them grapple with other people, and then they come up and ask me if I wanted to roll. I'm like, no, I'm good,
I'm
dude.
good. Yeah.
There was
Um,
a couple black belts in particular there that I was watching. They were so rough, man. I was just like, I don't want nothing to do with that. All right, you sweaty buggers. That liquid dripping off your forehead and down your back contains minerals that are critical for high performance. If you don't put those minerals back, you're not going to perform well. This is where Salty Electrolytes comes in. Salt contains 6 electrolyte minerals plus a touch of iodine to help you replenish after a hard workout. Salt is the only electrolyte supplement to pair every mineral with its counterpart, giving you the most robust mineral profile on the market, period. Head over to goearnyoursalt.com today to get some for yourself. Use the code GOEARNYOURSALT to get 15% off your first order. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
it's funny how jujitsu is like that. It kind of gives you, your personality comes out and like, you can't hide your who you are, and
Sure.
I think about that a lot. I'm I don't personally know very much outside of our association, the Pedro Sauer Association. Um I haven't been around too many. I've trained with other people, and I've competed against other association people, So I don't have a lot of understanding outside of our association, at a Pedro Sauer Association, and so it seems like to me like the people that are around in the Pedro Sauer Association all have the same kind of like vibe for the most part, kind of pretty tough, very
Yeah.
technical, and at the end of the day, like mostly smiling and having a good time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it seems like a real laid back crowd for the most part. Yeah. There's exceptions.
Not to take away from your
There's
coach,
exceptions.
your question. Are you guys? I can't remember. You guys are part of the Pedro Sour Association,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Under
Team Rhino is a sub association of Pedro Sour.
okay.
So Keith Owen was my instructor,
Oh,
and Keith
that's
started his
right,
own.
Keith.
Um, so we've got, I don't know where it's at right now, 6 or 8 schools in the association that's Team Rhino, but we still are part of the Pedro Sour Jiu-Jitsu. We consider ourselves, we wear the gear all the time, Pedro Sour
Yeah,
stuff, and we consider
I,
ourselves still part of that for sure.
yeah, and then like for so having the wrestling background, you know, and then I fought MMA. Um, those things like when I was wrestling has a shelf life, right? It's not like I can be 47 years old. I still, I coach. It's not like I'm grappling with those kids because they're going to try to kill you every day. MMA, again, super fortunate for the gym that I joined. I got lucky. My coach Aldo, uh, he was awesome, and the team was awesome. It didn't fit my. I liked MMA. I liked fighting. Um, I thought I was going to coach MMA. I thought I was going to do that. I thought that was going to be part of my life for a long time. Um, uh, I just didn't personally like I didn't relate with MMA guys. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they have a different
Yeah.
vibe. Um, they have a different vibe, and I liked it a lot. I liked the workouts. I liked training, but it's not something that I thought this is longevity. This is man. I don't want to get punched in the face. This thing's my money maker, dude. And it's not that I'm not making that much
I
money. you
love it.
know. Uh, but once I found Professor Mike, he's taught me so many things, man. He's taught me so many things about staying healthy, keeping my body healthy. Uh, you know, for the longest time, honestly, Riley, I didn't. I had no one. I knew what jiu-jitsu was because of MMA. I'd long known about it, but in my mind, I was like, I'm a wrestler, and I'll just grab you and then take you down, punch you in the face. I'm not trying to do jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
Man, how wrong I was. Because lucky for me, my first jiu-jitsu um, professor is really, really good friends with my professor now, Mike Diaz. They were really good friends, and once we moved, he introduced me to Mike, and Mike has taught me um, so many things to keep my body healthy because I'm a small guy. I don't weigh a lot. I'm not a big guy. I have to. I have to listen to my body and I have to take care of it in the correct way so that I can stay on the mats. Because if I don't, man, there's no way I'm coming back from a major. If I get beat up and I get hurt, it's not like I want to keep going back in there and doing the same thing. I mean, I train with some monsters
For real.
and learning, trusting my professor, trusting him 100% to 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 give me the information that I need to stay healthy. Then having it being reinforced by Master Sauer, being reinforced by, Professor Jeff Curran, being reinforced by some of these guys that how lucky am I that Mike Diaz brings these guys into my life, right? Trusting my friend Riley that you're not going to hurt me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It gives me the ability to do the things for my body that I need to do, and I do them every day. I do them religiously. I do my stretching, I do my breathing, I do my saunas, I do my, take my baths. I do them religiously because if I don't, I'm not going to be on the mats, and that's the most important thing to me is staying on the mats healthy, mentally and physically for sure.
Yeah, man, you mentioned the breathing. I noticed that your email address mentions that, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about the breath work you do and what's that routine look like?
So I was, um, I've done yoga. I've done a lot of those things, and I've always known about breath work. I've done meditation. I've dabbled in all that stuff. And then, Professor Professor Mike, he 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 showed me some breathwork stuff that just like changed my life. Some of the, you see it on Hickson Gracie, and Cron Gracie, they do that, that, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and you see it on Choke. I dived into it really deep with, learning some of the stuff from him. I took some classes for some fire breathing stuff. I've taken those classes, and then read some books, started some literature, studied some techniques, and then one day I just was like, you know what? I'm going to breathe every day for a year. I'm going to breathe every morning for a year. And when I set, I have this personality that if I make that commitment to myself, I do it regardless how I feel, regardless of things that get in the way. I do it. I make that commitment, right? And that was about 4 years ago. And it, Riley, it changed my life. Like breathing, the fact that we're not taught how to breathe, the fact that you're not given instruction how to breathe. You just know that you're supposed to breathe, but the way we breathe, the idea of breathing, how you can adjust your fight or flight muscles and reactions with breath, how in a round, if you stop and just take an asset and listen to the other person's breath, right? And if they're breathing hard and you're like, oh, I got this guy right where I want him,
Oh, heck yeah.
or you're yourself, you're like, oh man, I need to control my breath because I'm not going to make it this round if I don't. You know, I was practicing holding my breath in the water. I was practicing holding my breath. I'm so intrigued by it. I'm so like it. It changed my life. Like deciding to breathe and to focus all my energy on it. And then what happened is other men started asking me about my breath work and my, how I develop a routine, how I, um, what things I think about. And I'm like, if you do breath, you don't think about anything because all you're thinking about is that breath. And it's the craziest, coolest meditation that I've ever done. And I don't, I don't take away from anybody else's meditation. I've had the ability to do, instruct men, some really cool men in my life on breath work. And every time they do, I tell them like a lot of my breath work includes stretching. It includes, the vacuuming. I don't know if you remember like when they suck in their gut really deep and they move
Yeah.
their stomach around, that controls it. That's a controlled, that's a part of breath that you're controlling. And just having that in my life along with the jujitsu, along with surrounding myself with good men, along with building my relationship with God, has formulated me into who I am right now, which is a lot calmer. I tell people all the time, man, like 16 and younger, Danny, we may not be friends because of the way that I was. We may not be because I was a knucklehead, and I did stupid things. 16 to 21-year-old Danny, still again, like just not a good person. Not somebody that I'm proud of at this moment. It's who I was. I accept me for who I am, but it's not who I strive to be to this day. Now
Yeah.
this version of Danny, man, so happy with myself and so happy with the direction of my life. And again, goes back to just trusting the people around me and then also like really putting some effort into it, which I think is what you need to do. You need to put effort into it, put effort into these skill sets that we're not born with. You're not
Right.
born with it. And learning how to manage fight or flight. A lot of the times you're holding your breath. You're getting smashed by a monster. Probably you're like, man, if you could clear your head, which starts at your breath, you probably figure out a way to get out of that situation. You hold your breath,
Right.
you dig down deep and now I'm gonna get out of here. Might end up hurting. That's what I don't want. And so I believe breath work for me and the men that I help and instruct, they always tell me like, man, like breath work it's just one of those things where if you don't sharpen it, you don't harness it, you kind of get like the hobbyist. mentality, about it.
But it's an interesting thing, man, because we do just walk around thinking that we just know how to do it because we do it every day, right? But it's a little bit like we all think we know how to fight,
Agreed. Yeah,
but we've never
yeah,
done it, right?
right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so now I just, I have this amazing spot. It's a Mountain Elite Massage. Amazing, amazing spot, right? And they give me the ability to help men and to do some men's workshops there. Um, I have men calling me all the time, and we talk about it, and if you want to, for me with breath work is like, you really need to understand that like me giving you one class is not going to change anything. You're going to be really excited about it, but it's not going to change anything. It's like my professor, he tells me things and I got to be excited about it, but I've got to also like go. I've got to go to class. I've got to do the things that he's telling me, right? And that's same with breath work. It's the same with any of those health and wellness things. You got to make sure you put the effort into it, and I tell people that up front. It's not going to day one you're going to be awesome. By day 365, if you look back and you're like, man, I didn't do any of that work, you're starting over at day one. you
That's
know
right, man. There's so many things are that way, right?
right.
Crap.
And you're
Every
not given a
every
book to
goal.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Father being you're a father. Man, imagine starting over at day one every year of being, no, you make mistakes. It's not like, but the thing is like you're a great father, and I could tell by the way that your son looked at you that, he trusted you. He 100% trusted you, and he trusted that you were giving him a good experience, and that's kind of what I think about when I'm working with men is like, you got to earn trust, you got to believe them, and then you have to make sure that like what I'm saying and what I'm doing, I 100% believe. I 100% understand that it's who I am. Do you know what I'm saying? And when you have that kind of a thing, then you can, it's not a sale at that point, right? I'm not selling you
Right.
anything. I'm kind of like giving you a piece of myself. And then my professor tells me that is that we're just exchanging energy and pieces of ourselves. And that's what makes it so awesome. That's why I love jujitsu.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys seem to have a really great school down there, man. Just hearing, and part of this is from hearing your podcast, but then hearing other guys at the camp talk. We all felt that way with Keith Owen when he was still around, and
Right.
just the love you develop for the guy, and the times when he calls you out on your bull crap, and man, I
Yeah.
miss that so much. Um, and you guys seem to have that similar thing down there.
Yeah.
That yeah, you've mentioned again several times on your podcast that kind of loyalty and the love you have for Mike, and then Mona down there, and just the family kind of atmosphere you guys have
For sure.
developed, and that the culture sounds to me very familiar. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, those guys get it too, man. I love it.
I didn't have I think I honestly think I met Keith maybe in passing. I don't remember. To hear about his passing and all that kind of stuff. It struck me like it's like that kind of sucks. And you
Yeah,
feel that with people, like you can feel like, oh man, that guy was, you could tell just by the way that you guys loved him is like, oh, that dude was a good guy.
yeah, man. It
And
was that was a tough time.
yeah, for sure.
That was a tough time. Um, I want to take this, man, and as a lead into your podcast, the
Sure.
Lost Boy Scouts podcast. Um, it's based around men's mental health. And I guess part of this is going into that, right? Because we take this kind of brotherhood of jujitsu and the coach to student relationship, and we're hurting each other all the time, right? We're in there trying to choke necks and
Yeah.
bend arms the wrong way, and obviously we stop before there's real injury most of the time, but it
Yeah.
happens, right? And so
Yeah.
there's trust we develop with people, and there's relationships, and every once in a while one of them doesn't work out, it gets kind of sour, but there's your loyalty gets tested at times, and there's all these things that go on that kind of fall in that category of men's mental health. And I want you to talk about kind of your podcast, where it came from, and then some of the just wild stuff that's happened since you guys started that thing.
Yeah. I agree with you, Riley. Like, um, it goes back to this idea of when you're a man, you're expected to be a man, right? You're expected those things. But do you know what that expectation is? You know how to like, like sometimes you're like, oh man, I got to go to work today. I feel like crap. I got to go to work today, right? I've got to go provide. Man, I'm a hunter, right? I'm a warrior first, right? I'm a fighter, you know? And if you're around men like that, right? You can kind of mimic, mirror. You can be like, okay, I'm gonna be kind of like, I'm gonna be like Riley today. I'm gonna be like Keith. I'm gonna be like Mike. I'm gonna be like Pedro. You can mimic those things, right? But then deep down, it's like you've got to take these skill sets and then make something of it, right? And me personally, growing up without a father, I didn't have those skill sets, so I had to mirror myself around people. Now, when I was younger, again, had I mirrored around like the gangster culture, what would my life look like today? You know, and then Tyler and I, so Tyler's my co-host, Tyler Clark. He's the inception of the Lost Boy Scouts podcast, and he, his daughter and my son went to high school together, and they were in the same friend group. And I remember when he came in one day, he said, "Oh yeah, your daughter or my daughter and your son Tristan, Trip is the nickname that we call him. They go to high school together." And I remember talking to him, and he came in. He'd watch from the stairs. He wouldn't come around. He was so nervous because you come in there and man, you see like this barbaric thing in your mind of like, I've got to do this. This is what I need. This is
This
what
is
my
in your
call.
jiu-jitsu school is what you're
This is in
talking
our
about.
jiu-jitsu school. Sorry, yeah, I should have said that.
Yeah.
He came into the jiu-jitsu academy, um, and just would watch sometimes, and then him and I started talking a little bit more just by the fact that our kids went to school together. And one day he said, "We should sauna together." And I was like, "Yeah, I love sauna, man. We should sauna together."
Yeah.
And we ended up finding this like spot in the Heber Valley that had a sauna, and just got lucky that again, like we just like that they never asked us if we were members of this thing. We just would go in there and we'd go sauna at this hotel. And they never we ended up becoming friends with all of the staff on the thing, and it was
Wow.
like we'd go in there and they were just like, "Hey, Danny, hey, Tyler." And in this sauna sessions, we would get into some really, really deep conversations. Tyler was going through some stuff, and um, I was working on my mentorship of men, like listening to men and guiding them and helping them and instructing them and being kind of that mentor role model of men that are struggling. Um, I without any kind of schooling, just felt like men were drawn to me to talk to me and share, because I didn't judge. Because man, I look at my life, man. I've got a great life now, but man, I've struggled. I still struggle, you know. So we would talk and we would get to these deep conversations, and we would have these like, man, this is so good for men. This would be so good for somebody to hear, right? And just one crazy sauna session, Tyler's like, we should do a podcast. This can't just be between Danny and Tyler. Other men want to hear this. And he tells me this idea of this Lost Boy Scouts.
10,000 hours is a steep mountain to climb to become a master, especially when the task at hand puts a relentless demand on your body. There is nothing casual about this sport. It's all in, all effort, all focus. It takes a lot from you, but the reward is unmatched. Mastery of oneself, an acute understanding of your weaknesses with an explosive sense of your strengths. Being able to complete the climb to mastery requires the proper nutrition. This is why it's important to take in a potent blend of electrolytes that is in tune with your output and brings strength to your goals. This potent blend is only found in Salt Electrolytes. Salt targets your depleted electrolyte levels with a boost of hydration and health. It gives your body the baseline recovery it needs.
And the story behind Lost Boy Scouts is the name is kind of a play on words. It's Lost Boys and Boy Scouts, but he puts it together. Lost Boys, if you don't know, it's the LDS down south that are kicked out of their community because they're not part of the group of men that are in the community, right?
Yeah, I did not
And
know that, huh?
it's an LDS thing. It's a a Latter-day Saint thing, but it's like a fundamental thing. And these men are lost, like they're just kicked out by their parents, by the community they know. And it was a big story that here us here in Utah, we just, man, these lost boys is what they were called, and they're just boys and men that have no lifeline. The only lifeline is themselves, and they're having to learn how to navigate the world. And then Boy Scouts, is like one of those other things that were you a, I don't know if you were a Boy Scout or if you were
What was it,
if you
huh?
did that. Me either. But in Utah, with that, it's a very fundamental thing, and it was a play on the words. But what it is that in both of those things, there's these platforms and these levels that you're trying to attain. And if you don't reach them, then what happens, right? And then as men, we're in that. We're in that, like we're trying to like attend these levels, and we joggle back and forth, right? Sometimes, man, you get your crap kicked in, and that's what he said is like, and then you have jujitsu, and you have this like thing that's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing that I've ever done, right? Is be on the jujitsu mat every day and like grind and go to class and like still come home and be this good father, good husband, and then go to jujitsu and I'm tired. I want to be there. Man, like I'm there for class. I'm there helping. I'm there so much, and it's this crazy world that we live in. But if I don't have jujitsu, then I'm all over the place. But if I have jujitsu, I'm like centered again, and I'm good. I can attack everything, and that's how that's how it came together. And then we were like, what's it look like? And Tyler just had this like amazing ability to um he had the idea in his head, and then he brought it to fruition. And it's we're on year almost three, I think, of podcasts. We're still mom and pop, and we've got, man, like uh, so much. You can see our story, you can see our life. You get to experience our life because our idea is to go in chapters, right? In a timeline. So we start with episode one, which is lost. And again, it's a play on words of, have you ever been lost, but not lost physically, but lost physically. And also, man, Riley, I'm sure you've been like lost. Like sometimes you're just like, I don't know what to do here. I'm lost. I'm
For
lost,
sure.
you know? And then we go in a storyline, and our story is just so many things. You get to live that life. Our idea is you get to live our life with us a little bit, a little tiny piece with us, and take a little tidbit of men's mental health, and that you're not alone. You're not alone
Yeah.
in this world as a man. Even though sometimes, honestly, I bet you feel like you're alone, Riley. I bet you feel like nobody else is going through what I'm going through. I'm the only person, good or bad.
Yeah, it's what's an interesting thing to me through business, right? Is I've been an entrepreneur my entire adult life, and I've gotten to know people at all life stages, income levels, levels of fame, all these kind of things. And I've started noticing those common threads where I'm like, okay, if I'm going through some crap, I'm definitely not the only one because I've met all these people, and in every one of those categories, they've gone through some crap too, man. And it's taken the, oh, I don't know what you call it, kind of that you can be kind of starstruck by certain people.
Sure,
And it's sort of taken that away to where I'm just like, no, man, Pedro Sauer in my mind is like this superstar, right?
sure.
But I've sat and talked to Pedro, and I understand he's tired from waiting in airports, and he's
I don't want to go there
putting on the
today.
positive attitude when he gets around people, but he's smoking tired, or he's sad. He made an announcement there at the camp about the. Won't mention it on here, but he was upset and crying, and so there's this guy, you know, he's in my mind kind of wears a cape and he's a superhero, but at the same time, Pedro's a dude just like the rest of us, emotion just like the rest of us, and in the jiu-jitsu world especially, I've met a lot of the real, you know, big name people in the last few years, and I'm like, yeah, man, every time I meet one to get a conversation one on one, like they've been through the same thing, they have the same doubts, they have the same insecurities, have the same, and you never see that if all you ever see them is on TV. But man, have one conversation with them, and they're just a dude dealing with the
Well,
same
and
crap we do.
how much instruction as a father did you get besides the fact that you had a father, let's say? How much instruction did somebody give you? Like, it's not like you got a book. Man, one of the hardest jobs, I'm not sure. I can't remember if you said you were married. I'm guessing that you are, right?
Yeah,
How much instruction did you get as a husband to be a good, like a good husband, right? Then
actually, quite a
what?
lot, man.
Oh, you did.
In my case, because we were part of a good solid church,
Oh, good.
and we had those mentors around us that said, "Look, man, we're on board with you guys getting married, but here's some things we'd recommend you do." And so we went through a lot of premarital counseling and just some
Beautiful.
sitting down with older couples that have been married for 50 years, and asking those
Yeah.
questions. So we came into it a little bit more prepared than I think most do.
Sure. What about being a great husband? Man, that's all personal at that point. You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
to go from that, like, okay, I'm a good husband to man, I'm a really good husband to I'm a great husband. That takes work every day.
Every day.
And
Yeah,
that's what Tyler and I always go back to is like everything that you do that has value, that has this like amazing, it's changed you as a person, right? Takes work. It takes it takes work. It takes you doing the work, right? And Tyler and I always go back to just keep doing the work, man. Just keep doing the work. Because what I would hate is for my friend Riley to be like, I got nothing left in my gas tank. I got nothing left. I
right.
tried everything, you know. And I would be like, man, did I miss something? Man, did I, did Riley call me and I didn't hear from him, or I didn't return his phone call because I was too busy, worrying about my own crap.
Sure.
And that's that idea of surrounding yourself with you know good positive instruction, and then taking the instruction, then taking the ability, taking it to the next level of like, I'm going to be really good at this, you know I'm going to be really good when it sucks, and man, my wife is giving me the business. I'm going to be like, smile and be like, it's all right. We're on the same
Yeah.
team, it's okay. you know
Yeah. Weather the storm for her, man. I love
Whether,
it.
yeah. Yeah, how long have you
Yeah.
been married?
28 years this year.
Dude,
Yeah.
congratulations.
1997.
What a beautiful
Yeah.
thing, man. Like, guys, like, that's that's the other thing is like how we support each other a lot of times is like ribbing, right? Like you're teasing the guy.
Sure.
But man, how many times have you like just taken the time and been like, man, thank you so much for what you've done for me in my life, And that's one thing that I always encourage people to do is like tell another man that you love him. Tell another man that you're appreciative of him. Tell another man that
Yeah,
you're
for real.
thankful for him. Because you don't know. You don't know if it changes his day that day to hear that another person who is going through the same thing is grateful for him, right? Grateful for you and your wife, man. Like what an accomplishment. What an amazing accomplishment, because it means that you've worked your butt off. It means that you've worked your butt off, and that you continue to today work your butt off for that common goal, that common unity, you know. And
Yeah. I think she's probably worked her butt off harder than me because my wife's she's a good one, man. I married way
same,
up. I
same, same. I tell
got the
people all the
better end of
time.
this deal.
Me too.
Oh my gosh.
Me too, man. I'm so, my wife is so. she's so kind to me. She's such a kind person to me, and she's so understanding of who I am, and what it takes for me to tick, and she's so
Sure.
good, man. Like I'm so lucky. I'm like, man, like I'm lucky, you know. So
They say a mark of a good marriage is when you both feel like you married up, you know. It's
yeah, yeah, there you go.
I love it. It's
Yeah,
awesome, man. Talk to me about this, man. You've maybe that's a different conversation, but your co-host Tyler, he's been through uh some stuff,
sure.
and that's been kind of documented on your podcast. So I know
Yeah,
it's somewhat public, but
yeah.
um
Um,
briefly discuss kind of as much as you feel comfortable there, just
yeah,
because this is the reality of like a man going through some life
yeah,
that's speed bumps, but man, it sounds like he's just handling it
yeah.
as about as good as you can. Yeah,
Uh, Tyler and I's walk, Tyler's years and I's age, and the hands that he's been dealt, would break most men. I mean, it would break you. It would break you. You know, we've talked about his divorce. We've talked about his struggles with with just that alone, right?
sure.
Um, and then uh, that's the beauty of like Tyler and I living our life the way that we do. We're out in the public forum because you can see what we're going through. And 2 years ago when I got the word that Tyler's brother had passed away, that was like one of those when you draw out your timeline and that little tick of this happened, that tick mark is going to be so big because it was so unexpected. Nick and we missed each other twice. I never met his brother. The whole time I've known Tyler, I never met his brother. Both the two times that he was here in Heber, um, I was on my way to Tyler's house, and Nick had to bail because he had to get home to his wife and family, and he needed to beat a snowstorm, or he needed to just get on the plane or something. So we never met each other, and that him passing has been one of those things where Tyler just, he's had to rally as a man. He had to rally. He'd be like, "Okay, man, you know, Nick doesn't want you being upset today. Even though you want to be upset, you don't have the answers because for all intents and purposes, Nick and Tyler were each other's best friends. They're each other's siblings. There is no other siblings. It's just the two of them, and the things that they needed to be there for each other when they were younger. That's all Tyler had. When he was going through his divorce, calling Nick, make sure Nick would be like, "Hey, how you doing? How's things going?" And then to lose that, gosh, we the it's still it's still I still see the day of, and then we podcasted, kind of close to that, and I remember like just thinking, man, this dude is struggling. And then a year ago, he got the news. So let me go back. A year ago, we're at jujitsu, and I remember him telling me like he had been struggling, like, I just don't feel good, and I've got these weird bruises on my body, and Um, I don't know. I feel like my iron's down. I feel like I'm just tired all the time. And we were like, that doesn't sound right. Maybe go to the doctor. And you know how guys are, man. Like they're not going to the doctor. And we're at jujitsu. He takes his shirt off, and Riley, when I tell you, his bruises were the color of my shirt, yours of my shirt, and they were, you know, melon-sized bruises all
Dude,
over his body. And we were like, bro. That's not right. And there was this girl there that was like, Tyler, that's not iron deficiency. That's something wrong with you. You need to get to the doctor today. And he's like, oh, I'll go. And we were just like, whoa. I mean, it was like they were purple black. They were black. And I'm at work and he calls me and he's like, I need you. I'm on the way to the hospital. I've got cancer. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know the outcome of this. And I'm like, what? You have what? You have cancer? And he had man, I'll forget the name of it, but yeah, he had leukemia. And then he was in the hospital for 6 months straight, in the cancer ward. Um, and he's been fighting it ever since. And so talk about like this guy just getting knocked down over and over and over and having to be like, I'm good, I'm good. No, so he hasn't been able to train jujitsu. Our podcast is like we were consistently every 2 weeks, but now we kind of like it's all over the place. We get together and we see each other and we hug each other and he's so close, man. He's so close. He's on his last round of so he goes 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off, 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off for 4 sessions. He's on his last round of 4 weeks off before he finishes his last round of the medicine that they give him. But right now, um, for all intents and purposes, Tyler's cancer free. They'll finish out this out, but for all intents and purposes, he is cancer free, and and um, it's so great because he's he's going to compete. He's going to come back to jiu-jitsu. He's going to do these things, and he has this like great outlook on life. But it's beat the crap out of him, Riley, like for sure. And to see your friend go through that, you're like, man, how do you help him? How do you surround him? You met him. He was at
Yeah.
the camp. He was right there by you, and he's great guy. And
Yeah, he was easy to talk to, man, and just, you told me later that he was fighting cancer, and I didn't realize it at all because he looked strong and healthy, and you know he just, like I said, it was easy to talk to. We didn't chat a lot, but our booths were right next to each other, stood there, and we got some conversation in, and that's when I started kind of picking up that you guys were connected through the podcast. And
sure.
yeah, obviously didn't know any of that at the time, but
Right.
these were both kind of new. You guys are new to me, both of you, and so that
Yeah.
was. But yeah, he looks like he's doing pretty good. I mean, he looks strong to
He
me.
is. He's doing great. Mentally, like everybody else, like he struggles. He has these battles, and we talk about that. That's the cool thing about the podcast is like, he doesn't he doesn't mask anything. I don't know how many podcast episodes. If you've listened to some of the things, one of the most powerful episodes that we've done is death. I think it's called Death. And there are some things that we dive deep down in that, like kind of teaches you a little bit about like myself and Tyler, and we don't shy away from anything, we don't, it's not like we mask anything, which
Yeah,
I think
you guys
like
get pretty raw.
you 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 yourself, you're putting yourself out there. You're putting yourself out there right now to be, talked about, to be judged, to be like, oh, Riley, you should do this different. So many people have input about what you should be doing, you know,
Sure.
and you want to you want to take that input, but sometimes you want to be like, really? That's what we always say at the end of our podcast. We always say, "Hey, open mat Sunday. You can come pay the drop-in fee. You can come hang out with us. You can come tell me exactly how you feel, and we can figure it out if we need to." You know,
I,
because it's
I
like,
love that.
really,
I love that
yeah,
segment of your podcast. You're kind of like, yeah, if you have a problem with me, we'll sort it out on the mat. So it's
yeah,
clever, and I think it's hilarious, and
yeah.
you know,
We also like we also take we take living a simplistic life of what we take that white belt for life. We take that seriously. Like we take the fact that like I'm just a white belt in this in my life, right? And if I have that
for
attitude,
sure.
I'll always be able to learn. I'll always be able to gain something from you. You can teach me something, and I'm not going to take that personality of like, oh, come on, I've got this. I figured this shit out, man. Like, come on, really, you know. So, Tyler, you know, his outlook on life is great. And then what he has coming to an end is going to be one of those bookends of like, man, your life is going to be your trajectory just took a crazy turn, and hopefully you've walked away from it pretty much unscathed as best as you can.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. I pray for that guy. Just
I know.
what a
And
battle to
and
fight, man. But
his community, his common unity, which we say is like great. His friends are jujitsu guys, and the jujitsu community. never ceases to amaze me by how great we are for each other. We are
Oh my gosh.
fast friends. We have the same little mindset, and we're
Yeah.
fast friends, you know. And
Yeah, it's funny that you use that term fast friends because that's real, man. That's probably honestly, it's probably my favorite part about jujitsu. I'm nearing that 50-year-old stage, and I walked out of some rounds this week. I'm like, oh man, I'm so sore, and yeah, I'm like a sub, but I'm still going back because I love my brothers and sisters down there, man. We just those after hours sitting on the mats, we're all smoke tired and just sitting there chit chatting about life and what we learned. And it's
my
wonderful, man.
professor calls
So
it
it's a great experience.
starry eyes. After your
Yeah,
rounds, after jujitsu, you never, if you come into jujitsu and have had a bad day, you never leave jujitsu with the same mentality. You always have starry eyes. You always have this like look on your face of like, man, I could take nothing bothers me. Nothing bothers me. Nothing is gonna affect me that bad, right? And when you get to share it with another person and you transfer that energy, we get to share a little bit of the burden of our life with each other, and we get to do it in this like organic way of trying to kill each other, right?
yeah,
Trying to like, because in any other sport, like, man, it's not like you're practicing. We're the only one of the only art forms that I've ever done where we actually are practicing, and sometimes 100% we're practicing. Like we are practicing, and that to me is the draw. It's the beauty of it, but also I think it's the thing that scares people because it's there's no faking it.
oh, that's for real. That's for real, man. The truth is told out there, right?
Yeah, yeah. And your
You got some
personality,
guy.
like we said.
Um, Man, well, you talked about retirement and that you're coming up here on that as far as from the air traffic controller, but you're the type of guy who's not going to stop there. What's next?
Um, I've been, because I was in air traffic, because I've been in air traffic for so long, I've done odds and ends stuff. Um, I'm really, really been blessed to be around some guys that have that entrepreneurial spirit and and that business mindset and that like I'm working for Danny, I'm working for me. Like I want to work for me. I want to work for my like what I want to see in life, and it's always the fear, right? Like that's the biggest thing is like what I know right now, I'm so comfortable in, right? I get up, I go to work, I'm home, I go to jujitsu. But if I was every day working for Danny, like what does that look like? And my friends like you and my other friends that are entrepreneurials, they're my mentors, right? And I'm surrounded by these amazing men who are like, yeah, no, push you to do better, push you to do better. And that's kind of my next chapter, I think, is like, we have, again, like I was talking about, I'm blessed to be around. Crystal Joy is the owner of Mountain Elite Massage here in Heber. My wife works there. She's the manager. She kind of like takes care of the front desk, and we're just blessed to be around them because I've been to some business meetings. I've met some really cool people by Crystal Joy and her husband Brian, by them putting me in these spaces that I'm not comfortable with, right? But I can fake sometimes, and I think that our goal is to work for ourselves, to continue to grow our entrepreneurial spirit, and then teach my boys to not be afraid, to put themselves out there and to see what happens, because the worst thing that happens is you learn a lesson. And if we go back to our jujitsu comments, the worst thing that happens, you tap, but you learn a lesson. You just learn a lesson, right?
Yeah,
It's
for
not for
sure.
now. Nothing's final, you
It's
know.
not, man. And it's funny because earlier in the podcast you mentioned how you can go home from work and forget about work, and that's not a thing for an entrepreneur. It's a
Right?
24 hour. We all wish we got paid for the amount of work we do in our sleep, right? The
Yeah,
amount of
yeah,
work we do in our dreams.
yeah,
I get kind of laughing sometimes because it's a great life, but it comes with a lot of. It doesn't come with an instruction book. There's a lot of books out there, but none of them really tell you how to do it. You have to make it yourself, right?
yeah. And you have to like
That's
you have to trust the people. You have to trust the people that are giving you like advice, because sometimes like, man, people will be like, my advice is worth what you think it is, which is probably not that much, right? But it's advice, and it means something to them for them to share that space with you. It means something.
for
They've learned a
sure.
lesson. And like you just said, like that is the biggest thing that I've learned, is that the time that I want to sit down and do nothing, you personally are like, yeah, me, I'm going, I'm constantly building, growing, trying to take care of something, because that's that entrepreneurial spirit, right? And that has
Yeah,
been the
it's
biggest
interesting.
adjustment.
It's interesting you say that because there's like this, you start to become aware that there's times when you actually have to do nothing because that's where the creativity comes in, the that. But man, just stilling your mind, and we talked about meditation earlier and prayer. um, those kind of things are important, but man, sometimes it's just like, just sit, no sound, no
Yeah,
stimulation. And an hour into that, 2 hours into that, you start to have some really good ideas.
yeah,
And so the necessity of that becomes apparent pretty quick when you're
for sure.
working on your own dream, right?
Yeah. Were you always like, have you always been that entrepreneurial person? Did you have like a 9 to 5? Were you always like, nah, man, this is who I see myself?
Yeah, I've had 9 to 5s, man. I was never great at it. So I got bit by the entrepreneur bug when I was 9 years old, I think. And I was,
Oh,
my older brother, stepbrother was 7 years older than me.
okay.
And he got his first job making, in the late 80s, making
Sure.
$3.85 an hour, I think is what he made.
Yeah.
And I went across the street and mowed the neighbor's lawn, and the lady paid me $10. And I was done with that lawn in 40 minutes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm making 5 times the amount of money this dude's making.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't I just do this? I'll just
Yeah.
go work by the piece. And then, in high school, we started, my stepmom was in the manufactured homes business. And so we kind of got the nod as teenagers to go out and do, put skirting, that vinyl skirting around the
Oh,
base
yeah,
of these
yeah.
manufactured homes. But we got paid by the foot. And I'd get so excited about that because my little brain had already been bit by the entrepreneur bug. And I'm like, we get paid by the foot. So if I do two of these in one day, I can make $400 in a day
Yeah.
in the early 90s. But then this other guy I know was working with me, and he'd be doing another job. I would do them 3 to 1, what he was doing. And he had a
Yeah.
buddy that he was paying half to. And, so it's two of them, and I'm doing triple what they are by myself.
Right.
And just because I saw that vision, I was like, man, there's no ceiling here. I just, as fast as I can put these together, I'm going to do it. And so I learned the trade and I learned the tricks, and I started doing that. When I got my first real 9 to 5 job in construction, it was the same way, man. We had the option to go hourly or piecework.
Sure.
And I was like, piecework all day, all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And if I'm done by 3 in the afternoon, I'm done going home.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was, I just saw it that way, and I've seen life that way since a little boy, and so,
Right.
yeah, I'm not a great 9 to 5er because I'm always seeing that other side, just like, man,
Yeah.
I want that, now, not all of its glory. Sometimes you fall on your face
Sure.
and
Yeah.
that paycheck doesn't look so hot, but
Yeah. That's the one thing about entrepreneurship that, like, for me, I've got a steady paycheck. I've had a steady paycheck my whole life. And that's the thing that people are always like. Like, that's that idea of like, I'm working for myself, so I'm gonna work my butt off, right? But man, let's say I don't see, I'm like, okay, well, my time's worth money. It's the one commodity that I don't have a lot of, right? And
hmm
I don't see that paycheck, and you're like, that's when some people would be like, oh, it's a failure, but it's like, is it? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not quite there yet. I'm still, you know, I'm still like barely scraping at the surface of this, what it looks like. And but I'm also able to have this full-time job, that pays me well, and so I can learn these lessons.
There's been a lot of seasons of the entrepreneur life for me where a steady paycheck would have been a great thing. Hey, has all that talk about salty electrolytes made you wonder what all the fuss is about? Have you thought that maybe one day you'd like to try that stuff? Well, today's your lucky day because Salty Electrolytes is offering free samples to listeners of this podcast who have not yet tried this amazing electrolyte supplement. All you have to do is head on over to goearnyourSalt.com and use the code PODSAMPLE at checkout to receive your free sample kit. There will also be a link in the description of this podcast. And now, let's get back to the show. You know, it's yeah, there's been some seasons of that too, and so I see both sides of it, man, and there's pros and cons to both sides, and
For sure.
you know, yeah, not being up all night thinking about what's going on in the business would be a good one. That would be great, more sleep, but yeah. Well, Danny, this is called the Go Earn Your Salt podcast. And when you hear that term, Go Earn Your Salt, what comes to mind?
Yeah, I like the idea of going and earning your paycheck, right? Earning those things that you want. It's a skill set. Like it's something that you learn or you don't learn. Like let's say for me, if you don't learn how to work hard to do the things that you don't want to do today, they'll pile up, right? And if you think you're gonna get that salt. You think you're going to get that little flavor, that little taste by not doing those foundational, those little tedious things, those things that just suck. You're you may you may have this beautiful house. You may have this beautiful house, but it's probably built on stilts and it's going to topple. It's going to topple,
Yeah,
right? But if I do those little tiny things and I earn every day and I get that maybe a little tiny bit of the taste of salt, but that's all right. I'm there. I'm going to earn it every day. My foundation is going to be huge and my house ain't going to topple. Nothing's
right.
going to fall. And I'm going to be able to have this fallback techniques and fallback habits that every day I can go out and earn. It may not be a full packet, but it might be enough just to get me to tomorrow. you know,
I love it.
you
I love that
know,
you're bringing the
and
packets into it. That's great.
yeah, yeah,
That's great.
um,
Um,
eh,
can we
yeah,
switch gears a little bit, move on to some lighter questions
sure.
as we kind of oh, as we kind of land the plane. Did you see how I did that?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, as we start to come in, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love it, man. What's your favorite pastime outside of jujitsu?
So, um, I'm dabbling in potting plants and propagating and um like blending plants together. My wife and I, we have, for all intents and purposes, because people have told us, one of the better yards in our neighborhood. And every year we plant so many flowers and we make different little settings and little groupings. And
Cool.
we take a lot of pride in that, in having people go, man, your yard, if my yard could look like yours. I love that, right? Um, I showed you the picture of my bus, my VW bus. I got lucky with that. A barn
That's a
find.
beautiful.
It it's amazing. I need a new battery in it right now. It's kind of giving me fits, but that's part of the whole thing. One day when I
Sure.
retire, it's going to be my daily driver, and people tease me. Funny story. We live in Heber and Carl Malone. That's kind of where he settled roots when he was playing for the Jazz. So I mean, I'm from Utah, so I know I've met his boys. They work at the dealership down here where my buddies are at. But I had that bus and I had it in the shop to get new tires. And my buddy calls me and he's like, "Hey, um, I got somebody on the phone that wants to buy your bus from you and he wants to talk to you." And the guy comes on the phone. He's like, "Hey, I want to buy that bus and I'm offering you X amount of dollars." And I was like, "What? Who?" And the guy there, he says, "Yeah, this is Carl Malone." And I'm like, "Yeah, I've never heard of him." And it kind of like started the conversation funny, and he got a kick out of that. And yeah, he wanted to buy it there, and I was like, "It's not for sale, man. Like, I know what I have. This thing
Yeah,
is super rare. It's bad. It's awesome. It's a talking point, and I'm lucky. I get to hang out in it. My boy and I are the head wrestling coaches of Park City Wrestling at the high school. We're the head coaches, so I get to hang out with him, and um, yeah, it's just, man, like trying to surround myself and do some things that just, be cool with people, and always be around the community, like always give back to the community, because I think that's a big thing for us as men, is to be, people that you can look to and you can turn to, and also be like, oh, I know Danny. Like, I like that when people go like, oh, I know Danny. I know your dad. I know your friend Danny. Yeah, I like that. That's important to me, and having it a
that's
good
cool, man.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What is something about you that's kind of quirky that people don't know about?
It's kind of quirky. Um, I'm terrified of ghosts. Like, terrified. When I tell you, like, I've lost lots of hours of sleep if I hear a noise, or if something happens to me that I'm like, gives me the tingles and the shingles, and my body's like, ugh, I don't like that. Um, Terrified. When I go, so at Mountain Elite Massage, that they have a sauna,
Mhm.
and I'll go in there. But if it's at night, I turn on all the lights, so I don't, because it's in an old building, like it's in a super old building. I turn on all the
Look
lights, Riley.
creepy.
And if I hear a noise, I'm like, oh my gosh, man. And there's been some scary things that have happened that they told me about, that um I'm terrified of ghosts. Yeah, not
You ever had
not even a
experience
little
with
bit.
one, or is it just something built in there?
I, well, I mean, I think so. I I don't know for sure, but yeah, I've had some experiences, but nothing like negative. I don't know why. I don't watch scary movies. I don't watch like wizards, and I've watched Game of Thrones. That's a different, but I don't watch like Harry Potter. I don't watch any of those things because I don't. I, I get like
Yeah.
nightmares.
No, that was real. It's funny because we, growing up, my stepmom was really into horror movies. And so as a, 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid, I'm watching, the Poltergeists and the Exorcists and the stuff, and Children of the Corn. I remember that one. And I'm like, dude, so that did not carry over into adulthood, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I became a Christian when I was 19,
Okay.
and, gave my life to Christ. And at that point, I was just like, I'm not doing this, man. It's not worth it. Those,
Yeah.
because the nightmares are real. They're
They
real.
tease me. Like, they'll tease me. My family, my friends, they all tease me, and they'll be like, they'll do something, I've had people dress up on Halloween and chase me around and think it's so funny, and I'm like, that's not funny to me, man. Like, I'm
Yeah,
I'm
I'll choke you
I'm
right through that
terrified.
costume, right? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right, Danny, you go sit down at a restaurant and you order a cheeseburger. They bring that cheeseburger out and the veggies are underneath the bun or the meat patty. Is that acceptable?
No.
Let's send it back.
Um, I'm not that kind of person, but I'm super particular. They tease me so much because, man, I don't have a big palate. I eat the same thing every day. On my cheeseburger, like, I literally only put tomatoes and extra pickles, and sometimes avocados, but other than that, I don't want anything else on there. Like, I don't like onions, I don't like lettuce. I don't really like ketchup on my hamburger. Isn't that weird? Like, I love ketchup, but I don't want it on my hamburger. The tomato suffices itself enough, you know. But I, I don't know if I'd send it back, but I'd probably pick everything off of there, and my wife would tease me. Man, back in the day, my wife would be like, "Oh, he's not going to eat that," and she would like take my plate, and this is how great my wife is. She would like pull the things
Make
off,
yourself a
because
salad.
it's like visual. I like onions, but I don't like to see them, and if I know that they're there, I won't eat it, you know. And
So funny, man. No, do you remember the old Jack in the Box commercial? I don't know if you remember this,
uh
but when they had some like the ultimate cheeseburger, and they're in a boardroom and they're passing it around, and the guy's like, I get the meat and cheese part, but why a bun? Do you remember that commercial?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and I totally identify with that, man. Because if I got a burger and it was just meat and cheese, I like the bun, but if it's just meat and cheese, I'd be good with it. But no,
Yeah,
yeah, and I'm with you. I would not send a burger back for that. I may consider rearranging it if I thought it wouldn't screw it up.
agreed.
Have a hard time just flipping it over. I don't know, man. It's a source of contention for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny.
Oh, scariest moment of your life, man. You ever had a near death experience or just something super scary?
Um, I've never scary. I've had some scary. Both my boys have had, um, where they had to have surgery or they got, they've had some. My older boy got hit with the 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 back end of a trailer. He was trying to help my father-in-law, and like the like a four-wheeler trailer, the gate is heavy because you're driving on that. So he wanted to help my father-in-law, so he jumped up there and pulled the pin. And my
Oh,
father-in-law wasn't prepared, and he pulled the pin at the same time. My kid jumped down, and the gate fell. And just by chance, Riley, like he jumped out of the way, and as he didn't know it was even coming down. As it fell, it it hit him in the like just above his ear. But had that like fallen on him, oh man, he wouldn't. It would have really
yeah, those
damaged
gates
him.
are heavy, dude. I've got a trailer with one, and
Super
it's
heavy.
they're
Cracked
nasty.
him in
That
the
would
head.
be
And I remember
man.
my wife and I seeing him, um, and coming into the hospital and seeing him and being like, "What in the world?" Um, Trip has had to have multiple surgeries on his ears, and each time he goes back there, I'm like, "Man, that's scary." I don't like that. I'm not terrified of the doctor, but I don't go to the doctor a lot because I'm like, I don't want to leave here
Oh my
any
gosh, man.
unhealthier than I already am.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Ah, yeah, stuff with kids is scary, man.
Yeah,
We've been really fortunate in our family that all our kids have all been healthy and we haven't had any major accidents, but scary stuff, dude.
yeah. I'm not a fan of those things. I like you. I say my prayers. I put all my faith in God, and I put out all my faith in His path and His plan for us. And I tell him every night, man, keep my boys and my wife, like keep them safe, and put your little veil over them and let
Yeah,
them be
for
safe.
real, for
You know.
real, man.
So
Danny,
yeah,
what's a bucket list challenge? Something you'd love to do before it's all over?
a bucket list challenge. Um, I So my wife and I want to live in Mexico for a little while. We go there consistently. I want to be able to live there and function there and speak the language and experience like Mexico. We've been there, we experience it, but like really experience it. Our plan is to drive our bus down the Baja Coast to Cabo. We plan to do that one time. We plan to sail from San Diego to Cabo and do those two things, like, be there in country for 30, 40, 50, 60 days is our goal. We want to live there. We want to spend some time there and experience it. And that's a big bucket list on ours. We have other things going on, but one day we want to do that. I think hopefully that'll happen.
That sounds cool, man. That sounds
Yeah.
cool. What's a book that you would recommend everyone read?
Breathe. Breathe by James Nestor. So much insight in there, so much, so much about breath in there. It's a great book. I love that book. I've read it 3 times. I've listened to it twice. I share it with everybody. It really gives you an insight into breath work and breathing, and why we do the things that we do, and why our 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 nose is shaped the way it is, and how come it's moved where, because sometimes, like, if you're in a warm climate, why your nostrils may be bigger as opposed to a cold climate, why your nostrils will be a little bit more shallower. It gives some insight into that. And fight or flight. um Fight or flight is real. If Most men, struggle with fight or flight, like we talked about. Sure, you could say you've been in a fight sure, you can say you've been in a firefight. Sure, you can say that, you've had some scary things, but are you running away from that, or are you running at it and taking it on? And fight or flight is
Yeah.
real as a man. And I don't know if we're teaching that to our young men the correct way right now. And I would
Yeah.
implore people to really understand that, like, we're men and women are built different, and men are built for war. And when it comes, are you ready? Are you prepared for it? And having your breath under control and being able to, like, think and function is super important. And that book dives into it a lot. And I
Yeah.
love
I
it.
was really disappointed in that book because it didn't tell me why my two nostrils are shaped the way they are after jujitsu and they get
Yeah,
broken and
yeah.
deviated septum.
Deviated septums. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Every
Oh,
night I
it's a
sleep
wild
with
thing.
a nasal strip. I tape my mouth shut sometimes, when I'm doing stuff. And um, I just
Yeah.
started to wear a mouth guard because my wife said my teeth. I had to get my front teeth fixed because I had them broken. And my smile's great. And my wife said I better protect those. So even wearing a mouth guard,
Those
like, you don't
pearly
have to wear that.
whites.
Yeah.
That's awesome, my man. Well, listen,
Yeah.
where can you be found? Your social media, that kind of
Yeah, so
stuff.
you can go to dray.ocana. No Enya, it's just Ocana. That's my Instagram, and it's attached to my Facebook, Lost Boy Scouts podcast. Um, you know, uh, Park City Jiu Jitsu. Again, I tell people all the time what Mike and Mona have done for me. I try to preach it. I try to give it to people. I try to pass it on of how important it is to me, the community. Um, and if you see me driving around, if you're in Heber, if you're seeing me driving around in my bus, man, stop and talk to me. Um, yeah, you know, anything where myself is out there, I'm blessed. I'm lucky, and I hope that people, like, come up to me and just want to talk to me, and, like, share certain things, share stories, share burdens. That's it's kind of what my I'm not prolific at social media, but I try.
Yeah.
I try.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, thanks for coming on today. It's been
Appreciate
an
you.
honor.
I appreciate your
Yeah, man.
friendship, man. I can't thank you enough for the blossoming friendship. Just always, you know, there's little things that happen, and our friendship is just so new. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for what it's developing into, and the fact that you're doing what you're doing. It inspires me to continue to do what I'm doing, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot to go out there and put yourself out there, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud to call you my friend. I'm proud of you as a man. um like I said, when I seen you interact with your boy, I was like, man, this is a good guy. This is a guy that his pride, he's not letting his pride get in the way, but he actually is letting him guide him, letting him guide him. And that's two things, right? You don't want to be too prideful, you don't want to have an ego, but you want to be held accountable, right?
Yeah, for real, man. I appreciate those. That's kind words, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, raising boys, I've got a daughter too. I've got a daughter and two boys, and they're just, gosh, I'm so proud of them as they've grown, and
Good.
not always do stuff right, right?
Sure.
Every parent has those times, but yeah, they've grown into some pretty awesome young people, man. That's great.
Good, good. And I'm
Appreciate it.
sure, like, a testament to you and your wife, like, being there with each other, and never giving up on each other, is going to set your children up for success, and give them that genetic code, like we were talking about at the beginning. Give them that genetic code of, this is tough right now, but I have this ability and I have this mindset to get through it. And you have to have that right now. You need that
Yeah.
right now, and we need to instill it in our children, and our children's friends, and be good people and good men. And and I believe that, for right now, my path is, I'm blessed. you know
Well,
it's
dude,
not me, it's,
I don't want to give some of that back to you because I did get to see your son Trip,
yeah.
how he interacted and was just so involved in that camp and making that thing function. And, I didn't actually realize until way late in that thing that you guys were even related.
Right.
And But I always thought, man, this kid's cool as crap because he's up there, you know, running a lot of the administrative kind of logistics of what's going on.
Sure.
He was involved in everything, and that camp ran really well.
Yeah.
You know, and then he come up to me with the camera and want to do an interview, and it was so he's competing, he's doing all this admin stuff, and then he's running interviews, and he was just a busy dude, but he
Sure.
impressed me because I'm like, you know, he's doing all this and you're there too together, right? And a lot of times you see a guy and his kid at that age especially doing their own thing, you know, but you guys are there hanging together and enjoying each other's company. That was cool.
I always I'll say, like, my professor always says, he says, it's not me, it's jujitsu. He always says that, it's not me, it's jujitsu. And for the longest time I thought he'd say sometimes you're gonna like sound like your professor, and I thought it was gonna sound like one day I'd sound like Pedro. I'd like I'd have that like cool, hey my friend, hey how are you
Yeah.
my friend. But what I think is, like, eventually you're around them so long, you just start to say the things that they're saying and reiterate them, and you believe them so much that people do say you sound you sound so much like Mike right there, and I'm like, man, it's not me, it's jujitsu. But I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I also think that I'm lucky. My boys, um, they love me so much, and they're so forgiving to me. They're so forgiving to my discretions and my mistakes, and they love me so much, and they see me for who I am, and they see past those things. And I always tell them, like, I may not get it right, I may not get it right, but I'm never going to give up. I'm never going to stop trying to be a good role model for them, you know. And
That's
I think
beautiful,
that's
man.
just, I think that's what our jobs are, right? And then just our friendships is going to be hold each other accountable to be like, hey man, how are you? And how's things going? And hey man, I'm thinking about you. Hey, I love you, man. Like, thank you so much for the opportunities, and you know, super stoked for each other.
Yeah, dude. That's exciting stuff, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Danny. I appreciate you, dude. Go on your
Appreciate you.
salt, my friend.
Oh well. Okay. Thank you, buddy.
Awesome, dude. Hey, you've just finished up this episode, and I want to know, are you or someone you know a getting after it, go on your salt type of person? If so, message me directly on Instagram at the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, and perhaps we can have you on the show. Also, if you like this content, leave us a review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And perhaps this podcast can help you and them go earn your salt.